Hello everybody, this is Romano DeFranco here, and as the year winds down, it's that time of year again where I'll be counting down the top 10 most beloved NHL players that died in 2025. Two of them were part of the Broad Street Bullies era, a couple of journeyman players to talk about in this video, as well as a goalie that was part of the 1972 Summit Series. Before we begin, honorable mentions go out to Phil Roberto, who was a Stanley Cup champion with the Montreal Canadiens in 1971, as well as Guido Tennessee, who was a defenseman who never played in the NHL, but was in the 1977 sports comedy film Slapshot. He starred in that movie alongside Paul Newman. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's begin our list with number 10. Coming in at number 10 is the former Boston Bruin and Dwight Foster. The 16th overall pick by the Boston Bruins in the 1977 entry draft, Foster made the cut with the Bruins out of training camp, and whilst he made his highly anticipated debut, he didn't exactly perform well in his rookie year. But over the next 3 years, he got stronger, and that included a career-high 24-goal season with the Bruins in 1980-81. He then played one season with the Colorado Rockies where he scored 31 points for his efforts, and when the Rockies organization was sold and relocated to New Jersey, the Devils didn't issue Foster a qualifying offer. Instead, he signed with the Detroit Red Wings before ending his career where it all began, and that's of course the Boston Bruins. Dwight Foster died on January 6 following a battle with brain cancer. He was 67. Coming in at number 9 is the only player on this list who had his life taken away way too early. His name is Thomas Klocek. Born in Prague, Czechoslovakia, Klocek started his career with the Slavia Praha U20, where he spent the first 3 years of his career. After that, he played one season with the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles. With his eligibility in the juniors coming to an end, he split some time in the NHL and the AHL with the New York Rangers and their AHL affiliate, the Hartford Wolfpack. He also split time between the Nashville Predators and their AHL team, the Milwaukee Admirals. Once Thomas split the next 2 years with the Atlanta Thrashers, his career in North America had seemingly come to an end. Since leaving the NHL, Thomas Klocek played for a variety of sports leagues in Europe, including, you guessed it, the Slovak Extraliga. Thomas Klocek died on March 17 from a horrific skiing accident at the age of 45. Upon his death, he's the youngest player on the list. Number 8 on the list is a 9-year veteran in Wayne Thomas. The Ottawa native began his career with the Montreal Voyageurs in 1970, staying there for 2 years until he made his NHL debut with the parent team, the Montreal Canadiens, in 1972. Wayne Thomas served the year primarily as the backup to Rising Star goalie Ken Dryden. He was the backup during Montreal's Stanley Cup run in 1973. When Dryden sat out the subsequent 73-74 season, Wayne Thomas emerged as the starting netminder, accomplishing the first of only 2 20-win seasons. The former Cup champ spent the entire 74-75 season as Montreal's number 3 goalie, growing very frustrated and demanded to be traded. Wayne was traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for a first-rounder in the 1976 amateur draft. Thomas then played 2 years with the Leafs before closing out his career with the New York Rangers. Following his retirement, the former Cup champ was an assistant coach of the Chicago Blackhawks for 4 years from 86 to 1990. After that, he was the vice president with the San Jose Sharks, staying in that role until he announced his retirement on the job. Wayne Thomas died on July 16 following a 2-year battle with lung cancer. He died 3 months before his 78th birthday. Number 7 on the list is a guy who was part of the Montreal Canadiens dynasty team in the late 1950s, and Marcel Bonin. The Montreal, Quebec native began his career as a minor leaguer for the Quebec Aces, which included a Junior A career-high 73 points in 50-51. After that, Bonin made the cut to the Detroit Red Wings roster in the fall of 1952. He stayed at Hockeytown for 3 years, where in the process, he won the Stanley Cup in 1955. The Canadian forward played 2 years with the Boston Bruins, in which you'll see his time in Beantown didn't work out well. The good news is, in the fall of 1957, Bonan was claimed by his hometown team, the Montreal Canadiens. Henceforth, that's where he's from. He was part of the Canadiens dynasty team that went on to win 5 straight Stanley Cups from 1956 to 1960. Bonan got to play with some big names on the team like Dickie Moore, Bernie Boom Boom Geoffrion, and Jean Beliveau. Not only did Bonan win 3 more Stanley Cups in his career with Montreal, he also scored the cup-clinching goal in 1959. Sadly, Bonan's career was cut short from a career-ending injury as a result of a collision with Red Wings defenseman Peter Gogin in a game on February 9, 1962. Besides winning the Stanley Cup 4 times, Marcel Bonan was a 5-time NHL All-Star. The Montreal-Quebec native died on January 19 in Joliet due to natural causes. He was 93, and at the time of his death, he was the final player left on the Canadiens dynasty team that won the Stanley Cup 5 straight years. He is tied for one other player for being the oldest on the list. Number 6 on the list is a former player and coach in Al McNeil. His professional career spanned 14 years from 1956 to 1970. His career began with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he played the first 5 years with the team until 1960, when he signed as an unrestricted free agent with the Montreal Canadiens. Unfortunately, McNeil missed out on the Habs dynasty, which is a bummer for him. He played 2 years with Montreal before signing as a UFA with the Chicago Blackhawks in the summer of 1962. McNeil remained with the organization for 4 years until he was traded in a one-on-one deal with the Rangers in the summer of 1966. When the Pittsburgh Penguins were awarded an expansion team in 1967, McNeil was chosen in the expansion draft to represent the original Penguins team. After his retirement, the Sydney, Nova Scotia native was named head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, where he coached the team to a Stanley Cup title in 1971. He later served as the final head coach of the Atlanta Flames. McNeil died on January 5th from natural causes. He was 89 years old. Okay, we're officially into our top 5, so I hope you're ready because we'll be seeing a lot of players who will be making headlines in this video. Number 5 on this list is an 11-year veteran in the NHL in Ed Van Impe. He started his career with the Chicago Blackhawks in 1966. When the Philadelphia Flyers were awarded an expansion team in 1967, the Saskatoon, Saskatchewan native became a charter member for the team. His career peaked in 1974 and 1975 when Van Impe won back-to-back Stanley Cups with the team. He was part of the Broad Street Bullies team consisting of Dave Hammer Schultz, Rick McLeish, Reggie Leach, Bob Houndog Kelly, Bill Barber, and Bobby Clark. I actually have Ed Van Impe's hockey card from 1971-72, and I'd like to honor Raymond Kuzno, who gifted me this card along with many others. Let's carry on. Ed Van Impe gained notoriety during an exhibition game against the Flyers and the Soviet Red Army team when he delivered a high, late hit to Soviet star Valery Harlamov. Valery lied motionless on the ice for a minute and a half. No penalty was called on the play, prompting play-by-play man Bob Cole to say, "They're going home!" After that, Ed Van Impe spent the next 2 years with Pennsylvania's other franchise, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Unfortunately, he had less of an impact on the Penguins than he did with the Flyers. Aside from winning the Stanley Cup in back-to-back years, the Canadian forward was a 3-time NHL All-Star. Ed Van Impe died in Vancouver, British Columbia because of kidney failure on April 29th. He died a month before his 85th birthday. Number 4 on the list is the second and only other journeyman in the NHL, Greg Millen. A native of Peterborough, Ontario, Millen began his career with the Pittsburgh Penguins in 1978. After that, he played the bulk of his career with the now-defunct Hartford Whalers and the St. Louis Blues. Millen then closed off his career with stints in Quebec, Chicago, and Detroit. After his retirement from playing professional hockey, Greg Millen shifted his attention into commentating games just like me. He started off his broadcasting career with the expansion Ottawa Senators alongside Dean Brown. Then, in 1995, The former goalie worked in Hockey Night in Canada on CBC, pairing alongside Chris Cuthbert, Paul Romano, and Jim Houston. Besides working at Sportsnet alongside commentators Rick Ball, David Randorf, John Bartlett, and others, the legendary broadcaster Bob Cole specifically requested that Millen be his analyst for Cole's final broadcast, ending Cole's 50-year commentating career on Hockey Night in Canada. Millen died on April 8 due to a heart attack. He was 67 years old. Number 3 on the list is part of the Broad Street Bullies era, and that's none other than Bernie Perron. The Montreal native started his career with the Boston Bruins in 1965 and remained there for the first 2 years. And when the Philadelphia Flyers were awarded an expansion team in 1967, he was one of the original Flyers team. His 47 wins he got in 73-74 remained the most in a single season until Marty Brodeur came along and beat that mark in 06-07. Perron won back-to-back Stanley Cups with the Flyers in 74 and 75 respectively. Both cases, not only did he win the Vezina for the league's best goalies, these same years, Bernie won the Conn Smythe Trophy as the most valuable player in the playoffs. Unfortunately, on February 17, 1979, Perron suffered a career-ending injury in a game against the New York Rangers in which an errant stick entered the right eye hole of his mask. To say it caused permanent damage to his vision was an understatement. On a bit of a better note though, not only was Perron a 5-time NHL All-Star, he became the second player for the Flyers to have his jersey number up in the rafters for Philadelphia, following Barry Ashby. Bernie died from complications from a fall at his home in Avalon, New Jersey on September 21st. He was 80 years old. Number 2 on the list is a fan favorite player on the Detroit Red Wings and Alex Delvecchio. I have a lot to say about this legendary Hall of Famer. A fan favorite of the Red Wings organization, Alex was notable for playing on the production line with Gordie Howe and Ted Lindsay. The Fort William, Ontario native played his 23-year career with the Detroit Red Wings. He joins a long list of players who played their entire career with one franchise. Now that is a dream come true. Not only did Delvecchio win the Stanley Cup 3 times with the team in 1952, 54, and 55, but he was the captain for the Red Wings for 12 years, which has been surpassed by Steve Yzerman. Alex went on to play in the NHL All-Star Game 13 times, and if that's not amazing enough, Delvecchio has had 7 60-point seasons, 2 of which were 70-point campaigns, and one of them was an 80-point year too. The legendary Hall of Famer died on July 1st due to natural causes. He was 93, tying with Marcel Bonin for the oldest player on the list, and upon his death, he was the last surviving member on Detroit's Cup-winning teams from 1952, 1954, and 1955. And we've saved this spot the best for last, the number 1 most beloved NHLer who left us in 2025. I know what you're thinking. You guys have been saying, this man's number 1, this man's number 1. Before I started recording this video, you all knew that the number 1 most beloved NHLer who died this year is none other than Ken Dryden. Just like Alex Delvecchio, I have a lot to say about Mr. Dryden himself. The Hamilton, Ontario native was first drafted by the Boston Bruins when he was 17 years old, and after that, his rights were traded off to the Montreal Canadiens, and that was the team he played for the entirety of his career. Ken has had so many great memories with Montreal. For instance, when he was called up late in the 70-71 season, he was downright unstoppable, guiding his team to a Stanley Cup that year, and Dryden won the Conn Smythe Award for the most valuable player in the playoffs. The following year, the Hamilton, Ontario native won the Calder Memorial Award for Rookie of the Year because that was his first full season in the NHL. That spring, it was announced that Ken would take part in the 1972 Summit Series where he shared the crease alongside Tony Esposito. Following that, Ken Dryden won the Stanley Cup 5 more times. These same years, he won the Vezina Trophy for the league's best goalie. After his retirement from hockey, the legendary Hall of Famer pursued a career as an author and politics as well. His book called The Game was a commercial success, as well as Home Game, Hockey and Life in Canada. Ken Dryden died on September 5th, following complications with cancer. He was 78 years old. Okay, folks, that's a wrap for my top 10 countdown list for the NHL hockey players who died in 2025. Although these wonderful players no longer live with us, their memories will have an impact for generations to come. Oh no! When I filmed my countdown list last year, I left Pete Conacher off the list. He was the son of fellow NHLer and Hall of Famer Charlie Conacher. Yeah, what can you do? May these former NHLers rest in peace and thank them for these great memories.